Evening, everyone. How's it going? Thane, Kirby here till about 9:30. I think we've got a protester from Parliament kicking in a bit later on the program to walk us through how it really is down there. It looks like a dance party, to be honest. It looks like you could sell tickets to it. Anyways, welcome to the show. We've got a big show tonight because Bomber Bradbury, New Zealand's number 2 political commentator on his number 2 podcast in the country, is going to grace us with his knowledge and insight and commentary on all things politics. So we'll do that very shortly. If you'd like to participate, you can. You just jump on. We'll put a little link in the comments section. And, you could be in the hot seat too talking to us. I got to say, though, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and you can visit talkback.nz. Cool. Okay, let's bring in our guy. He's Benny Mack. He's our fact checker. Got a formula, and here it is. How are you, mate?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
Good. What's happening? You're driving home, are you?
Yeah, I'm currently commuting on the fabulous Auckland motorway system, the Loop. I'm on the Loop.
Man, he's on the loop. Fabulous. And your destination is home, or are you going to be going via the White Lady, or what's happening tonight?
Oh, I'm actually thinking of going to Denny's. You know, Denny's is one of my frequents, and it's one of my dives that I go to get, nutrition.
Fantastic. All right, well, take us along for the ride. We'll come to you, here and there.
Yeah, hopefully they let me in I'm only wearing jandals.
All right. Okay, well, let us know. I've always wanted to know if I can get into Denny's with jandals.
Thanks, yeah, man. Thank you.
All right, we'll be back with you very shortly. Thank you. Benny Mack. Bomber Bradbury, welcome to the program. How are you?
Where's his studio?
His studio is quite literally in the back of his van. It's a green screen. And he just opens, it's all on the back door. Look at it. It's a green screen.
I just... Hello?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We're not funded by New Zealand on New Zealand on air either. So hey, it is what it is. Thank you very much, Benny. We'll bring you back later on the program. Live from his lounge. Yeah.
Blessings be upon Benny Mack, the greatest fact checker in the Southern Hemisphere, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely, he is constantly checking those facts.
He is amazing. He's amazing.
So this protest before, 9 days ago, it was those racists and some homeless Māori chasing down and threatening our politicians, urinating everywhere, bringing their bloody kids, and now it's turning into a very well organised. They've got toilets, they put hay down, there's child centre looking after kids, there's a little education unit, i.e. you can draw on the wall with chalk. They've got themselves together. How serious is this, do you reckon, Bobbs?
I think it's serious because you're dealing with people who don't feel they have anything left to lose anymore. And generally when you get people to that level, they're in it. They're in it for the long haul. I think that what you've got here is a unique situation in New Zealand politics. You've got a lot of working class people, a lot of New Zealanders who didn't feel that they could take the vaccine for whatever crazy reason. And of course, they live in a liberal progressive democracy and you can't be held down and had medicine injected into you. So the mandates have hit a certain group of New Zealanders very, very harshly. And if you're not middle class and you can't work from home, there's actually been for the last 2 years an economic and social inability to be able to live your life the way you feel. You feel that you've been ostracized. A lot of these people quite angry. And a lot of that anger has been manipulated and whipped into a frenzy by some pretty extreme far-right Steve Bannon-inspired media. Just to give you an idea, one of these groups 2 nights ago was arguing whether or not the moon landing is a hoax, just to give you an idea of where they're at, So you've got a lot of working class people who have felt very, very betrayed by Jacinda's kindness, who feel very angry, who have all turned up at Parliament. The police weren't ready when they turned up. They didn't really sort of understand how full on this would be. And then on the Wednesday, after they tried to barge into Parliament, and the police very professionally pushed them off, said, "You're not coming in here, you feral lunatics." And that night, there was a lot of argument amongst different factions. And some of the factions got up and left the next day. So the actual event itself was imploding. And then on Thursday, this is Thursday last week, Trevor Mallard comes out onto the balcony with all the media there. He throws a short man tantrum. He tells the police to clear the lawns. And what he in fact does, this is just as the movement was about to implode and dissipate, what he did on the Thursday was create a common enemy and put out a 10-hour live stream recruitment video, for Christ's sakes. More people turned up, 122 were arrested. They couldn't arrest them all. No. He ended up looking completely powerless and weak.
Yes.
Yesterday, Police Commissioner Costa came out and said, something must be done, and we will do something, and we will move their cars. And then right after he says that, he says, and please, are there any tow truck drivers who might be able to help us? And you're going, why are you telling everyone that you've got no muscle to back up what you... And then Trevor's squirting them with water, and he's playing music all through the night. And it's like they're actually inflaming the situation.
Yeah.
And these people now, there's more of them. There's 5 times more than when started. So all of this has been terrible.
So on social media, they're inviting people down. The network is working. People are dropping everything. Now they're painting it as be part of history as we roll these guys. You know what I mean? So it's just going to get bigger, and it swells on the weekend because it's now become a tourist. It's Rainbow's End. So like David Seymour wants to unite and kick off discussions. I thought that was brilliant. I think someone needed to, but Jacinda's not going to come down. She won't speak.
I think that for the left, there's a political problem here for Jacinda and Labour. They're always talking about standing up for the working class New Zealanders and helping those from poorer, vulnerable communities and da-da-da-da-da. Well, here you have a whole bunch of people from poorer communities, from Māori communities, from beneficiaries, from workers, people who have been banned, haven't been able to get ahead because of the mandates. Well, they've all turned up. And, of course, most of the people who vote Labour now are middle class. And so all these middle class Wellingtonians don't live in these smelly, feral lunatics around. And, they said mean things about my mask. And, someone egged a kid wearing a mask. And, they say awful things. And so the activist left have been demanding the police go in and smash some bloody skulls, while everybody else is standing back aghast going, this is crazy. Of course you can't negotiate with people who turn up and make threats against the Prime Minister and make threats against MPs and make threats against public officials.
Don't you think that's been overblown?
No. You've got an obligation if you're going to start these kind of protests. You can't pull this sort of stunt. So negotiations off the table. But what is on the table, I believe, is an MP of some mana, whether it's David Seymour and Willie Jackson, whatever the combination, to go down there, take their concerns, and ensure that those concerns are heard at the top table, and then they leave. Because nobody wants these mandates to keep going. Nobody wants to just ostracize people who are unvaxxed and keep them cut off from the rest of society forever. That's not the way you grow a country. Of course, we all want to end these mandates, but you can't end them just as Omicron is hitting. And I think that the worst case scenario would be the police go in there with batons, the police go in there with dogs, the police go in there with tear gas and clear that lawn. Because while these people are lunatics, some of them, and while they've had their fears and their pain manipulated by far-right radicals, while all that is absolutely true, and I don't agree with a lot of the things they're having to say, they have the right to protest in a liberal, progressive democracy. And if we move in and force them off the lawn, I think that will be a tragedy to New Zealand politics, and it will be a wound we won't get back from and will only serve to radicalize people more. So I think somebody's got to go down, take up those concerns, and then they've got to move on.
Tim Firth says this might be X moment to save the day. I mean, they need it in the polls, right? These guys are tanking by the second.
They have been taking a heavy price. It looks like Christian dad Lex Luthor is actually has picked up a lot of that angry right wing vote that had been flirting with ACT, and it's gone home. So ACT is sort of around 6.5. They've taken poor old
Lex Luthor now.
Yeah, that's right, Christian Lex Luthor. So Christian Lex Luthor has won them back. He's won those angry white male votes back from flirting with ACT, and David Seymour is needing some values, right-wing value stuff to get his teeth back into. This could work. This could well be it.
Could he? I mean, this is political point scoring, isn't it? I mean, this is the game, right? The game of chess is on.
Well, the game of chess is on, but he's actually playing it for the basic decency of democracy. Someone has got to be the first one to try and talk this down and de-escalate it. All you've had is a speaker playing dirty, crazy games that's only resolved them and hardened them, and they're not going anywhere. So someone has to be the bigger person to cross the divide, start dialogue, and try and come to a negotiated way out of this. The police have been very clear. They can't arrest their way through this. And unless you want riot police going through that lawn, there's no other way this ends.
How damaging is this for Jacinda, do you think?
I think it's very damaging for her brand. I think it's damaging for her brand because she won't even listen to people whose her policies are hurting. I think it's damaging for the Labour Party, who are running around screaming, they're all Nazis, they're all Nazis. Look, most of these people are just frightened, scared, angry New Zealanders who have got nothing to lose. Sure, they may have been manipulated by these crazy right-wing buggers online into some crazy belief systems. But for the most part, they've got the right. They're working class poor people who are being hurt economically. They have a right to have their voice heard.
Yeah, I think I feel for the families, and I feel for those people. They were promised a lot by the government, but like you say, COVID has moving goalposts. The mandates have been cruel, and a lot of people are hurting financially, and the funding just isn't what it used to be. We were in absolute lockdown.
And also on top of that, look, there was a legitimate reason to be angry with this government. If you look at Bernard Hickey's work on where did all of that money the government pumped into the economy, where did it go? The majority went to people who were already rich. So you've got poor people who are bearing the heaviest yoke of economic mandates, whose piece of the pie was immeasurably tinier than the very rich people who didn't need the pie in the first place. You've got rents rising. You've got food prices rising. You've got lots of reasons to be very angry and frustrated with the government that promised to be transformative and delivered sweet fuck all. And I think that there's a reason to be pissed off about that. And that's legitimate. You should be able to have the right to be able to protest about that. And the way Labour and their Labour supporters have tried to paint them all as Nazis, I think, is terribly middle class. And I think that there could be a real danger here that things get so out of control, they've got no choice but to send in the bloody riot police. There is no question, and let's be quite clear, there is no question that the state can move those people off that lawn tomorrow, right? Because the state has a monopoly on violence. It just takes 200 cops in riot gear, pepper spray, and dogs. They'll clear that lawn. Now, the political damage would be nuclear from that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be yet that the caucus within Labour have gotten their head around the fact that if we don't start to de-escalate this now, that's the only option left on the table. And nobody should want that.
Question from Andrew Smith. Will Labour MPs join National in voting no confidence in the Speaker?
Oh my God, he's just when I was watching on Thursday and you saw him come out and he was clearly agitated and angry, and he'd had all of the parliamentary service people in his ear complaining, they were mean to us, Trevor, they did this to us, Trevor, it was so awful, Trevor, they had to move a bus stop, Trevor, a bus stop, right? So they're easily triggered, middle class little darlings, and these very, very rough as guts sort of salt of the earth type of having a go. He comes out, does his little tantrum, and he just orders the police. And you could just tell a knee-jerk reaction. He hadn't thought it through. The police were like, okay, well, we'll move as many as we can. And at 122, they reached capacity. They couldn't arrest any more people because they didn't have any cells. Where are you going to put them? Right? So they didn't think it through. It radicalised so many more people, and they all saw a common enemy. Most New Zealanders see cops through Police 10-7, right? That's for most New Zealanders, their interaction with police is through Police 10-7, and it's a chuckly cop and a fair cop and a just doing our job, man, sort of cop view, right? They don't see police picking people forcibly up, roughing them up, and then dragging them off. They don't see that normally. And for people watching that, it would have made them sympathise with the people being dragged out. Not everyone.
Coming out. There was that lady whose clothes got dragged off and all that type of stuff. There was a nice little cop video where they were handing out some lollies. I think it was like day 5 or 6.
Look, the police have done, I think, an incredible job here. They have not been sucked into doing anything too extreme. They've played a very fair game. I believe they should never have been asked to go in on Thursday. I think that was a terrible strategic blunder by Mallard. And he only compounded that by then turning on all the sprinklers, which then hardened their resolve, and then playing it's like a bargain basement psyops, playing all this late night loud music. I mean, if you're talking about people who have got nothing to lose, who have been pushed to the edge, who have turned up on Parliament, spraying them and keeping them soaking wet and freezing cold while keeping them up at night, it's almost like he's driving them to violence, for Christ's sakes.
So the question again from Andrew Smith, will Labour MPs join National in voting no confidence in the Speaker?
I believe there is no MP with the mana to follow through with their conscience on this. No.
Good. Nice and generic. Hey, the management team are very interested, though. The leadership of the protesters are, like, by the hour, becoming more and more media savvy. They've been on ZB. They've been like ZB for once are going, you know what? I think I'm with the protesters on this. The mandates have got to go. Anything to blame Jacinda, obviously. They can't stand it. But they're with the protesters, and the protesters now are sending out coordinated letters and videos to social. I think they're doing a really great job.
They have managed to adapt quickly. I think when you had so many of the identity politics woke left coming out on social media and calling them all Nazis and framing them all as having white supremacist views and all crazy anti-vaxxers. And look, there is some of that, no question. But that's certainly not the majority. The majority are just people who have been crushed down and who are angry and who are frightened.
Live streams, They've got DJs and bands playing protest songs, and they've got speeches on the hour, every hour type thing. And like when the rain was there, they had free shops were opening to free raincoats and umbrellas to try and keep people warm. It seems they've settled in for the long haul. I just wonder how long can this go before the tempers are frayed.
Well, this is where we need to be strategic. We need to be strategic because the last thing we want to do is trigger these people or give them any more propaganda, right? So no police over-the-top actions, no batons, none of that shit. Because I'm telling you now, if we go in there with dogs and batons and tear gas,
what about the tow
clear
trucks?
them out?
What about the tow trucks?
Again, I mean, what does that show you? The fact that the working class tow truckers won't turn on their working class mates to make middle class Wellingtonians feel easier. This is actually wider now. People are going, hey, we have had to do all of the essential lifting here. You've all been able to work from home. You know what? Fuck you. And I think that there is a lot more of that out there. They, you know, my thing is that it has to be de-escalated and talked down. And here's the reason why it will end and implode quick enough. Omicron is coming. We are going to see a wave of illness hit this village, this set up village, and it will implode on that illness. It will. It just will. So you don't need to go.
To be honest, it's a cold, isn't it? And then if you're really old and can't handle a cold, you're going to go to hospital.
Oh, it's gonna have comorbidity. You know, that'll kick in. It's easily spread if you're living closely together. I mean, this camp, I imagine, will go down pretty quick. And you wait till then. You don't give these people the propaganda opportunity to be able to sell a narrative to the wider disaffected and the angry. But it's a reminder that if the government doesn't do something fundamental for people's quality of life, these are the sorts of response. People get sick of it.
Defence Force and that show of strength, those vehicles are now in Wellington and they're on display and they're ready to go in. We're just waiting for Costa to go start. I mean, that could be a trigger.
It is a fucking ludicrous decision. Costa has got no power as the police commissioner to reach out to the New Zealand Defence Force. This is a constitutional issue. The New Zealand Defence Force hadn't said anything back to him because they don't want to get involved. Anytime the police call on the military in a civilian issue is deeply constitutional problematic. Yeah. And they've gone in as a show of strength. But I think that they will be finding overnight the lawyers are banging their heads against bloody brick walls saying, you can't do this. It requires a level of martial law that none of us want to trigger here. So there's a lot of arguments about who has power and who has the constitutional rights to do what. And everyone's quite nervous because, of course, if you cock this up, there will be cases in front of the Supreme Court. These are the kind of people who will do that, you know?
Yeah. Hey, moving away from Wellington, the protests, conversion therapy. A couple of people didn't vote for it, and now their mugs are all over the television and they're being highlighted. And the LGBT community are saying, don't come to our parades or anything like that, Simon Bridges.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand what this law was for. They weren't able to quantify how many people are actually being converted in this manner. When the idea first came up, I thought, well, this sounds, reasonable. I would imagine an exorcism where you've got a young priest and an old priest. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you to force the demons out. I mean, I think that anyone who believes in an invisible, magical flying wizard who can pray the gay ghosts away in the year 2022, I mean, that's obscene and it's ridiculous.
Was it done with electricity? Did you put something on your nipples? How did it work? Does anyone actually know?
Who knows? Who knows, right? But it was interesting, the Ministry of Health, when they were asked about this in 2019, their advice was don't criminalise this. Education is a better way. And what we've ended up with is, I think, the low-hanging fruit of identity politics virtue signals. We've suddenly expanded it to 3 to 5 years in prison, which again, I don't believe in the magical invisible flying person praying the gay away. But if you've got someone who says, "Look, I'm really conflicted. The Bible says I've been reading Leviticus, and the Bible says men shouldn't sleep with men. Please pray over me." Da da da. And you have a bad time of that. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure who gets arrested, the priest or the person who's asking for. So it's a piece of legislation, I think, that makes people feel good without actually explaining, well, how's it going to work?
I think maybe this will go underground. Like abortions back in the day. You maybe have to travel to Hamilton. You've got there's a little convent out the back there.
My fear is that somebody will, of course, want to martyr themselves on this. Right? You'll get a Brian Tamaki, who, I will still pray the ghosts away, even if they send me to prison, and it will become a rallying point, which I think will be completely counterproductive. The issue that then got even a little bit more complex was the whole issue of what happens if your child wants to transition. Now, a lot of parents might have real issues about saying yes to puberty blockers for their teenage daughters or teenage sons. Now, if your teenage son or teenage daughter asks repeatedly to go on puberty blockers and you keep saying no, 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 well, technically under this new law, you have stopped them from being who they can be,
right,
and you might get arrested. Now, I just think that's not what everyone thought when gay conversion therapy, young priest, old priest, power.
I'm just learning about puberty blockers for the first time.
Well, exactly. All of these extra things. So I think that there was actually really legitimate reasons you could be critical of this piece of legislation and say, is this really the thing that we want? It's always funny for me. We on the left are the first to say that prison doesn't work, prison is counterproductive, prison is a terrible thing. Yet when it's something that we feel particularly triggered by, like homophobia, oh, sweet Jesus, we can't get the jackboot of the state in that person's face fast enough. 3 to 5 years in prison for praying the gay ghost away. I mean, come on, guys. That seems pretty fucking extreme, doesn't it? 3 to 5 years? No! I mean, but we've passed it and it's all yay, rah, 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 rainbows. And I just think it hasn't been able to quantify who's being saved. It hasn't actually been able to explain what the bloody hell this is for.
And the first person to do it is going to get the book thrown at them, and they're going to get the 5 years.
Right. So I don't know. I look at the fact that we've got 25,000 people in emergency housing, 210,000 children in poverty right now. We've got over 50,000 families living in poverty, and the things that we're worried about and we're pushing for are gay conversion therapies that no one can even tell you how many of those are going to happen or I think the last time anyone was prosecuted for it was in the 80s. So it doesn't seem like it's been a very,
Darren Ford shared, what if they set up a vax clinic? Surely that would get rid of the protesters. Thank you very much, Darren. Courtney Richards, can the government bounce back from the frequent bad optics? Their fault or not?
Well, look at the latest polls. Look at the latest polls. They have been able to hold. Labour are going up in each of the polls. They're going up. It's 1.4, 1.5. But their position, despite having terrible, terrible, terrible media coverage for the last 2 months, people are saying, you know what, Jacinda, I may not agree with everything you're doing, but you're damn sight better than Christian Lex Luthor.
Maxa from our YouTube broadcast says, some bizarre stuff coming out of Auckland Mayoralty. What's Ephesos' chances of winning?
Efeso Collins is the current Auckland City Councillor for South Auckland. He is a great friend of mine, wonderful bloke. I've got a lot of araha and time for him. There has been this weird kind of play for power between the establishment Auckland left and Efeso Collins. They don't like Efeso because Efeso is quite a free thinker and is someone who actually puts poor people first. And the establishment left don't quite like that.
No
so they were going to back Richard Hills to replace Phil Goff, who's just announced that he's finally leaving. And they just cut Efeso completely out of that deal. I've always said that Richard Hills has a glass jaw and that the first moment he gets into the ring, he'll knock himself out. Last week, he declared that he wasn't going to run because it's been so stressful. So he didn't even get into the ring before his glass jaw exploded. So there's a real tussle over who's going to win the left wing nomination. In that fight, you have Leo Malloy, and also now.
Do you think Leo is cooking his goose by being just a little too aggressive?
Well, I think there's a lot of aggression in the city against Jacinda. The other rumor that's just come out this morning, of course, is JT John Tamahiri will be throwing his. So if he throws his hat into the ring, that will certainly make it much easier, I think, for Leo Malloy.
John Tamahiri back in charge of anything, it seems.
Well, they quite like him at the Wairapirura Trust.
Yeah.
And they quite like him from the Māori Health Authority point of view.
Yes, right.
He's had some wins over the last 2 years. Let's be honest.
Didn't make the Herald, so no one really knows about them. So. Anyway. Mate, thank you very much. I'm just worried that Leo is cooking it with just his aggression level goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and you don't want a lunatic, but you don't want a deeply emotional person. You just need to kind of be in control and keep it smart casual as opposed to... Smart casual is a good way to put it. Yeah. And, don't blow it, Leo. I mean, he's got a lot of traction. It's going well. But Hey, thank you very much, mate. And we will be talking to you next Wednesday. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Talk soon.
All right, mate. See you soon.
Yeah.
So there he is. That was a good chat. Thank you very much there, Poms. Let's go check in with Benny Mack now. Fact checker. Doesn't look like Benny is there. Benny is out the gate. Looked like the last shot was at Denny's, and the question was earlier, can Benny Mack get into Denny's wearing just sandals? And we've just gone live with him now. He's back. Benny, what's the update?
I can't hear you right now. My headphone is not it's not working. I'll be back with you 1 second.
Okay, no worries. We were supposed to also speak to a protester live from Wellington.
I've been delivered this.
Oh, yeah. Coke on a Wednesday. Tasty. Oh, there you go.
They look like they've got a milkshake. And looks like there's burgers. They're curly fries. It looks like some sort of like a hoagie. And that's a sandwich. Maybe a club sandwich. You got to have salt and pepper. That ketchup, the classic ketchup. You don't know if it's up this way or that way. It's up that way, guys. I'll work on my earpiece and I'll be right back with you.
Okay. I might go.
One moment, caller.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking I might go. Just end at the moment. I was only going to talk to the protester, and then that's it. So he's gone. That is the show, everybody. Back tomorrow from 9 o'clock. It's a new reduced half hour of online power. Hope to bring you Joe Ford tomorrow live from the campsite, but we may have lined up Jen, formerly from The Rock, who is pretty much camping down there. Hasn't her social media come alive. I'll share those details on where you can find her tomorrow on the show. But a very good evening from us. Hopefully you have a great night, and I just love to see how this protest is going to develop. Thanks for joining us. Good night.